A former FBI director has been tapped to lead a special investigation looking into the Penn State scandal. The committee is investigating the actions of university officials in response to the abuse allegations involving former assistant coach Jerry Sandusky.
We are committed to leaving no stone unturned to get to the bottom of what happened. Who knew what, when, and what changes must be made to ensure this doesn't happen again.
The committee's investigations will go as far back as 1975, much longer than a grand jury report issued earlier this month. The head investigator is reporting back to 6 university trustees. While the criminal charges in the Penn State sex abuse scandal have made headlines, the controversy brings light to a serious issue in the workplace. What to do if you see something inappropriate, whether it's a boss, a colleague, or anyone else. Here to talk about how the university and investigators have handled the Penn State scandal and what to know for any place of employment is Ricardo Pitts-Wiley. He's an attorney with Tully Rinke. So what did officials and investigators do right as far as you've seen in this Penn State scandal?
Well, so far, the officials and investigators, I think they've taken measured steps to try and gather sufficient evidence to go forward with a criminal prosecution. And I think that's the key issue to think about here is the sufficient amount of evidence to go forward.
Now, in spreading this out to the workplace all over the country, not just athletics, public, private, what are an employee's responsibilities when they hear something when this comes up? Because obviously, it's been talked about, on all the channels for the past few weeks regarding Penn State. There was some people knew things, but nothing ever really gelled. What now are employees' responsibilities? They've been the same as they've always been in the past, but tell me again what they should be.
Well, actually, it depends on the class of employee. Particular professions already have certain reporting requirements attached to their profession. So it's important for an employee to understand what are their job duties and what are their own personal obligations. In terms of federal government employees, some of them have to report any kind of misconduct, waste, fraud, or abuse that they see in the workplace. It's mandatory that they do so. Also at the state and local levels, there's also a mandatory requirement to report certain types of abuse, whether it be of individuals or perhaps the public trust.
Getting back to the federal sector, we had one of your colleagues on just last week. We were talking about the Dover Air Base mortuary scandal where there were some whistleblowers and they were retaliated against. That still happens in government and in private industry, we're afraid to say. What's an employer's responsibility once they hear something from an employee? Certainly not to retaliate, but that happens. There's a fine line in when to report something and when you should cover your own behind, worried about retaliation. What is that?
Well, again, going back to having sufficient evidence, I think that any particular employee should not be making a determination themselves as to whether or not there has actually been misconduct. But if they suspect that there may be, then you must put that forth either to your supervisors or to some law enforcement agency so that that entity can take care of doing a proper investigation and determining what has happened and what should be done about it. So from an employer's standpoint, an employer, if they do get word that there has been some misconduct or alleged misconduct, the employee has the obligation to do an investigation.
What if you're the employee and you see your boss doing something wrong? What do you do? Who do you talk to?
Well, in that situation, it depends on who your boss is. If your boss is the top, then you're going to have to try and go outside of that entity, outside of that company or agency. If your supervisor is a mid-level supervisor, you can always go to the next supervisor in your chain of command, and that person should be able to handle the allegation.
And if there are repercussions, retaliation, what do you do?
Well, if there's repercussions, it depends on your particular position. You may not actually have any rights, depending on what your profession is. But most employees, they do have some right against reprisal, so they can actually bring some kind of cause of action to challenge the adverse employment action that was taken.
All right, good to have your insight with us tonight. Ricardo Pitts-Wiley with Tully Rinke on Capital Insider. Thank you so much.